Okay. Take fucking 2! Now I don't have my fucking list. I'll try to remember what I wrote down.
Okay.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. Okay, let's do this. Hi, welcome to Age Before Beauty. I'm Age.
I'm Beauty.
And today we're going to be talking about Christmas movies and shows. I am not a big fan.
I really enjoy them.
So what do you enjoy about them?
I am a sucker for old-fashioned things.
It's not that I'm not a sucker for old-fashioned things. I just went from, the ages of being born to 12 and then being a teenager to now and not necessarily liking them anymore. I am a Scrooge.
Well, I believe we had a discussion about the commercialism.
Commercialism?
Thank you.
You're welcome. How's it feel, how does it feel to be old?
Everything gets darker and scarier every day.
So, dementia?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice it in my 28 years of life. My memory is just starting to go downhill. It's great.
The grave is creeping towards us.
Yeah, it's so fantastic.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, it's so great. On top of, having to try to afford Christmas presents for our kids. Our memory just sucks. And, it's, the second week of December, and I'm not even nearly close to having any Christmas presents because inflation has gone through the roof.
Yes.
Thank you, America.
Yep.
What was it like trying to afford Christmas presents when your kids were younger?
It was difficult because I didn't have a ton of money to spend. And so what I tried to do, instead of going out and buying them a bunch of junk that they would play with for 5 seconds and then forget existed, is I tried to find things that were more meaningful and also things that I could just do with them, as opposed to the latest gadget or gizmo. Dad, burn it.
Yeah. That's what my dad did too. For him, it was, classic movies. It was having family meals. Growing up, I remember him making moika, which is a Finnish stew, and essentially having venison and vegetables in a beef broth. And we would watch, all the old puppet movies, Santa Claus Coming to Town, A Year Without a Santa Claus, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And those are my memories of Christmas. And then there was one Christmas when I spent with my mom's family and my stepdad forced me to eat green bean casserole. And this was when we found out I was allergic to mushrooms. And as I was stuffing my face full of green bean tater tot hot dish.
Breathe.
And the green beans went straight out of my nose, and I started having an allergic reaction, and I'm pretty sure that's when Christmas started going downhill for me. I was 13 years old. Merry Christmas.
13-year-olds don't generally like to have green beans coming out of their nose.
Yeah. And then that's when also the Christmas presents started to get weirder because females start to have really weird things start to happen to their body around this time. And people start being very passive aggressive. So, not fun.
I'm going to need an example.
In my Christmas stocking, I got tampons, and a letter basically saying that I need to go to church more, so then I could be closer to God and stop liking Nightmare Before Christmas. Because I was the kid who was very weird, and like, I was different from my cousins. I was not girly girl. I was, like I had mentioned before in the first podcast, I was mostly raised by my dad and my grandparents, specifically my grandpa. I was very close to them.
Mm.
And I enjoyed wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And I enjoyed being outside and just being a huge dork. You know, and I was essentially told that I needed to stop doing that.
Mm.
And I need to focus on communion. I need to focus on being girlier.
Finding a man?
Yeah, a boyfriend who was committed to God, who was willing to come and meet my family, who was willing to essentially stop me from having guy friends.
Mm.
Yeah, so very strict. And this was around the time when my mom came back into my life. And it was just very toxic. And it was also around the time of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So, Christmas is great.
And see, now, for me, Christmas was only about presents.
Yeah.
My grandmother, every year after we opened all of the presents, would say, well, Christmas is over for another year. And I'd be like, it's 9 a.m.
Yeah, see, that's not what it was to us. Like, we would get presents. We would have celebrations of Santa Claus. But it was also very religious. Like, we would go to church, we would sing, we would have, we would go up to the altar, we would have, wine in the little cups, we would take the cracker bread and eat it. It was kind of gross. But, it's not that I didn't enjoy all of that. It was the fact that they would try to force us to conform. And I don't have any issues with people practicing their religion. It was the fact that that side of the family was trying to force me to be something that I wasn't. So what I enjoyed about growing up was the Christmas I had with my dad and my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't try to change me. And we would watch classic shows, and we would watch classic movies, and the gifts we would have weren't gifts that were demeaning, and they weren't gifts that were like in abundance. They were gifts that were meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember one year, and granted I never picked it up, but my dad got me a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was strictly because I was in love with Andy Griffith playing the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very tone deaf.
I also got a guitar once. I don't play guitar.
Yep. Don't play guitar, but we're great at karaoke, and that's great.
Now, we came up with a list of our top 5 Christmas movies and shows. So I am going to let my little friend over here start.
Am I little because I'm 5 foot now?
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 5. It's great. I forgot.
I remember it.
What was it?
It was Christmas Without a Santa.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. We are currently using my phone, and that's where I wrote my list. It is Christmas Without a Santa Claus. This is my favorite, and it's my number 5 because it is a movie that I used to watch with my dad. It is something we would watch every year. And it is something that I enjoy because it's about giving Santa Claus a break. And honestly, if you look at it, it's reminding everyone that we should be grateful for the people in our lives, especially single parents, single moms, single dads, because of the fact that we are the Santa Clauses.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to do everything in our power to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my dad was a single parent for the longest time. And he may not have had a lot, but he tried his darndest to make our Christmas special. Mm-hmm. And in the movie, you know, Santa Claus is tired and he feels like nobody appreciates him. And, you know, everyone in the world decides to give Santa Claus a break. And that's important. And then towards the end of the movie, Santa Claus is like, thank you for recognizing me. And then he still decides to go out and give everyone the Christmas that they deserve. And that's something that is so special.
And important to remind people that just because you're the, as I once was described by somebody, the glue that holds everything together, doesn't mean that you don't need a little recognition, a little acknowledgement from the people who are so used to getting from you.
Yes. That is one of the biggest things that, you know, what Christmas should be about. It shouldn't be about the price tag on the present. That's something that, you know, we've forgotten over the years.
Mm-hmm. Well, my number 5 is Scrooged with Bill Murray.
Bill Murray is a great actor.
Bill Murray is a great actor. And Scrooged is one of his better movies, in my opinion. Directed by the late, great Richard Donner, who also directed another classic Christmas movie, Lethal Weapon.
Yep.
Brings a tear to my eye every time.
I'd give you a tissue, but you got none on the table.
I got none on the table. But Scrooged is, it's got some heart to it.
Yeah.
It's Bill Murray being a smartass for about 100 minutes, but it also has moments of like tapping into the Charles Dickens story and really.
It's definitely a different take on, you know, the beaten down version of, you know, the Charles Dickens movie because, you know, obviously nobody's listening to that version. And Bill Murray does a very great job of having a dry sense of humor of everything. And, you know, I feel like most people in America listen to a dry sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. That is our national sense of humor, yes.
Our language.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, Scrooged definitely, it taps into the core of the Charles Dickens story while at the same time just being funny.
Yeah, I think that's, honestly, that's something that we need during the holidays because I personally feel like, you know, it can be very depressing around the holidays because there's a lot of people struggling around the holidays and that's something we don't recognize. We really don't. And it's something that it can be tragic and that's one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of the holidays because everyone's so peppy. Everyone's so, yay, Hallmark movies, yeah! And it's like, shut up.
Okay, that is obnoxious. I will grant you that.
Please.
Hallmark movies are great, though. I'm lying, not. Careful, because in hell they make you watch Hallmark movies. So.
Who says I'm going to hell?
Shot yourself.
You realize if I have the option of just staying here, right? I don't care what religions say. I'm staying here. I'm gonna haunt my fiance. He don't have a choice.
Hi, Tucker.
I love you. All right, so my number 4 is The Christmas Story. So, you know, I love this movie because of the fact that even though it's centered around Ralphie, I personally feel like it's not his movie. I feel like it is actually the old man's movie. That is because he has such a strong presence in the movie. Christmas is his holiday. Another reason I feel like I love this movie, the old man is my father's inner monologue. My father loves Christmas. And my father is a very stoic Finnish man. But his inner monologue is this man. He is very, you're going to do it my way or the highway. And I'm going to go get a Christmas tree and I'm going to shove it anyway, but we're going to have the greatest Christmas tree ever. And he's going to hide from carolers. And it's a super dry sense of humor movie. It's literally one of the greatest movies that have come out of like the 70s. I love this movie. It is so fun to watch. And also one of the greatest parts of the movie is when Ralphie comes down in the stupid little rabbit outfit. And I can relate because I have had a pajama outfit, not necessarily a rabbit outfit, but a Grinch outfit. And I was about 8 years old. Thanks, Grandma.
Please tell me there are pictures.
I think my grandma has them. And I hope they are buried in the depths of her collection. Because I don't have any. And I will never have any.
Drat. And see, Christmas Story was one that I came to late. I didn't really relate to it all that well.
Oh, you'd relate to the sequel.
Yes, no, I watched the opening of the sequel on somebody's recommendation.
You are welcome. So James is a writer. If you are a writer and you struggle with getting published, watch the opening.
It is accurate.
I started to watch it and I instantly messaged him. I was laughing so hard. And he was like, "Why should I watch this?" And I'm like, "Just do it. Please. For the love of God, just watch it. Please."
And I said to you, is this one of those things where I'm going to kind of be pissed at you afterwards?
I didn't really care. People get pissed at me for a lot of reasons, and at the end of the day, I really don't care.
As long as you got a laugh.
Yeah. I have, a wicked sense of humor that way.
Well, my number 4 is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
A very good choice.
And one that I understand almost made your list.
Yeah, technically it's my number 6.
And unlike Scrooged, there is absolutely nothing touching about this movie.
Nope.
I'm not moved by it in any way. It's just Chevy Chase being a buffoon for 90 minutes.
Honestly, one of the characters that rubs Chevy Chase the wrong way, Uncle Eddie. I think is so chaotic in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I understand to the fullest because I won't say who, but my fiance Tucker has a relative like this, and every holiday, this relative is just like this, and I get it. The vein that forms on Chevy Chase's forehead is the same vein that forms on mine, and it is great. This is the one movie where I am like, I get it, and it is beautiful.
Yes, and it is, again, it has a fake message about money not being the most important thing at the holidays, even though at the end of the movie they still get the money and get everything that they wanted, which of course is a thing throughout all Christmas movies where they talk about, well, you know, money and presents aren't the most important thing, and the movies are made by insanely wealthy people who can have anything they want.
Yeah, they spend what, millions of dollars on these productions. And then when these movies come out, they roll up in their expensive cars and have their thousands of dollar aviators on and walk in these expensive suits and are just like, oh yes, my movie is so great. We don't care about money.
Now, what is your number 3?
The Bishop's Wife. Have you heard of it?
The original?
Yep.
Yes, I have heard of it.
Yep.
I've never seen it, but I have heard of it.
It is fantastic. It didn't. So people have a lot of mixed feelings on Cary Grant's portrayal. I love his portrayal strictly because of his, physical comedic acting. And, he's always been really good at being a physical comedic acting. He's never had to force it. And that's what, in my opinion, makes the movie. He's never had to try. And, he could be a serious actor. And that's what made him a good actor, because he can blend the two. And, this was something I used to watch with my grandpa. This was our movie. And so that's what makes it special to me. It's my number 3 because, I can see where people have problems with it. But, the fact that Cary Grant is in the movie, he's one of my favorite actors. So that's why it's my number 3.
He's not remembered as fondly as he should be, because he wasn't, everybody remembers him as just being like this smooth, cool, romantic lead, and certainly, especially like the Hitchcock movies.
Or the Philadelphia Story.
Right. But he was, watch Arsenic and Old Lace if you want to see like another side of Cary Grant that you didn't necessarily think he had in him. He was a really funny actor.
Well, the thing too is that Bringing Up Baby.
Bringing Up Baby is another one.
Yeah,
yes.
he had a lot of depth to him, and that's not something he gets credit enough for. And that honestly makes me sad, because he's one of my grandpa's favorite actors, and that's where I feel like, where me and him can connect on, because yes, I love that he is an attractive guy, but I love that, he can be funny and he doesn't have to try. He can be serious, but then he can, fall flat on his face.
And yeah, he didn't have a problem making himself look like an idiot, which a lot of super pretty people do.
Yeah.
So, my number 3 would also be a classic and a little cliche, but It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, really? What do you love about that one?
Well, I have a very fond memory of the first time I saw it. I was watching it. I was probably a teenager. I was watching it in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was watching it in his bedroom, and my parents were watching it in the living room because that's how we rolled.
Right.
And um, I came out of my bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
a little teary.
Mm-hmm.
My dad asked me, "What did you think of it?" And I said, "I thought it was really good." And he asked my brother. My brother was like, "Eh." And my father said, and I quote, "That's because you have no soul." So that's a fond memory that I have from my
Yeah.
childhood. But
How do you perceive James Stewart in that movie?
everybody remembers It's a Wonderful Life as being this feel-good, happy Christmas movie. First of all, it being set at Christmas is incidental. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with it being Christmas.
Right.
Um, it's one of the darker performances that he gave. I mean, the man is at the end of his rope, ready to kill himself,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just cynical and angry and done with the world and yelling at his kids. It's like,
That's the thing that makes it such a good performance, because around the holidays, there's a lot of people who can understand that feeling.
mhm,
And that's something that is not addressed enough. It's something that is relatable, and that's what makes it such a beautiful and tragic performance.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, it taps into that sort of, like you were saying, everybody's happy, cheery, peppy. Oh, it's Christmas, and there are people who are just like, my life sucks, and I just feel like I'm having this rubbed in my face that everybody else is happy right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for a movie made in, I think, 1947, the fact that it does address those kind of issues, I always thought was really an impressive feat for that time.
Right.
So,
Well, and around that time, they were making movies that were supposed to be, relatively, more upbeat, unless it was supposed to be, a thriller,
mhm,
or like a detective type movie, because they had just got done, with the war, and they didn't want to focus on anything that was rough.
great.
And, for something to come out that was focusing on such tough feelings, I'm sure people weren't expecting it.
Mhm,
And, looking at it today, I'm sure people still would be shocked by it. Because even today, I'm toxic toxic masculinity, or even, no offense, even females, females tend to be more emotional, but
mhm,
we don't look at enough or appreciate enough of being able to be vulnerable, because people still joke or make fun of being able to be emotional. Like,
mhm.
we'll look at movies or shows, and we'll see memes, we'll see Reddit posts about, oh, haha, this actor performed this so stupidly, or whatever. And then you'll have the flip side of being like, well, we should be more appreciative, or whatever. So it's still clashing on,
Mhm.
Emotions. And, the human identity, we should be okay to show emotions.
Yes.
So I think It's a Wonderful Life, did a good job of, hey, you know, he should express how he felt. Granted, he shouldn't have been yelling at his kids, but
But haven't we all been there?
yeah. But it's, as adults, where do we go to? Who do we talk to when we have those feelings? Sometimes we don't even feel like we have anyone, even if we're married,
Mhm.
because why? Sometimes it's hard to talk to that person because we don't want to put that on them, but then we get to that point of it just lashes out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard.
Yeah. So what is your number 2?
So is this a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie? Can you guess?
Oh, yes. It's a Halloween movie.
No, it's not. It's both. The Nightmare Before Christmas. So, I mentioned it before. I was severely judged growing up for liking this movie. But I like this movie because you can watch it, either holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was different. And it touched based on, Jack Skellington wanting to do something different. Granted, he shouldn't have stolen another, individual's holiday.
Wouldn't have gotten away with it if it was Hanukkah.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't have. But, it's touching on another subject of an individual feeling depressed or feeling pressured into doing something, over and over again and having to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I felt that, because of the fact of, being involved in a family of trying to be, of their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And, I still feel that on some sort of level, because in the movie, he wants to branch out. He wants to try to do something different, but he doesn't know how to, express himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes about it all wrong. And on some sort of level, he's human.
Yes. Well, possibly literally, because he does make references to being dead several times, so I assume he was a person at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And, even when, Sally is introduced, she's trying to escape too. She's trying to express herself. She's trying to become, her own individual. And I felt that too. Mm-hmm. Because when you're becoming a teenager or even as a young adult, you're trying to find yourself. And I felt like, even though they're dead or whatever, they were still trying to find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And even around Christmas time, you're trying to figure out who you are, because when you're rushing to, please everyone at Christmas,
mm-hmm.
you still fall flat on your face somehow. You aren't going to make everyone happy. And, on some sort of level, I feel like The Nightmare Before Christmas does that because he fails utterly terribly. And that's why I feel like it's a Christmas movie too. It just is. And obviously, The Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween movie because it is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a Christmas movie too because, Santa. And
yes.
them trying to have their own spin on Christmas.
And it is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I used to take my youngest to go see it every Halloween at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. I wanted to say Halloween. And yes, it's one that I watch every single year. I watched it again this year on the big screen. Mm-hmm. I think anybody can relate to that feeling of just being in a rut and you just want something different and new in your life. Mm-hmm. And it might take falling on your face to make you realize and appreciate what you had. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I gave you shit for it, but I absolutely concur that this can be viewed as a Christmas movie because it does have a Christmas message to it of, being with the people that you love and appreciating what you have.
Well, and the best part too is that Santa Claus gives them snow at the end of the movie, and Sally and Jack end up together. So, mm-hmm. Oh, and another thing too, Disney Plus puts it as one of their Christmas movies during Christmas. So
we can't argue with Disney Plus.
No, can't. may not be the biggest fan of Disney or their prices annually, but you know what? I have to pay for it because my kids apparently need Disney.
Mm-hmm. What kid doesn't?
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of classic movies on Disney Plus, so I really shouldn't be complaining.
Mm-hmm.
Like the original, like Robin Hood animated movie, and that was like my first introduction to Robin Hood, and I say that Robin Hood's like my original love, so I can't. Not that
That's
he's
for the furries out there.
no, not that he's a fox, just the idea that he's a good person. I'm not a furry.
My number 2 is White Christmas.
Why? I'm.
Ooh, this sounds like it'll be fun.
Okay, so here's my issue with it. Okay, originally I had no issue with it. Here's my trauma with it now. I ended up being in the play in high school. I was a dancer. I may not be able to sing that well, but I can dance. One of the actors was a complete and total dick. So that was my first issue with it. Like, he just treated, like, the cast terribly. And then, recently, I read about Bing Crosby treating his kids terribly. Like, to the point where 2 of his sons committed suicide because of how his father treated them. Completely changed my view on any movie that Bing Crosby is in, especially White Christmas. And so I just can't watch it. And it makes me so sad because it's like, you know, I don't want to change your opinion on it because, you know, this is something that you obviously like. But what frustrates me is that, you know, when you read about something about someone's character, is that, you know, it can completely change how you view something that you love.
Yeah.
And it's tragic.
And I've always been pretty good about being able to separate, like I mean, I could still watch a movie that has Kevin Spacey in it, and
I've never liked him.
There are plenty of actors I could name who are complete pieces of shit. Like, I can still watch Mel Gibson in movies. Fat Man, that's a great Christmas movie.
What's Fat Man?
It's a movie where he plays a Santa who just kills everybody who gets in his way. So it's an action movie. But yes, Bing Crosby was a monster. But the message of White Christmas, of what they try to do for the general, is one that I didn't see the movie for the first time until probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I was just looking for new Christmas movies that I hadn't seen. And I watched it and I absolutely instantly fell in love with it. And I have watched it every single Christmas since, oftentimes at a little theater here in Minnesota called The Heights, where they do a whole like production of it. A lady comes out and sings Christmas carols beforehand. I just went a couple of weeks ago to go see it with a couple of very special people. So, hi Heather, hi Ashley. But it was one of those movies that I just grabbed onto. Now, if you want to have a problem with it, there is a little number in it called the Minstrel Song, which I have never understood this, because the camera dollies in on a sign, minstrel number rehearsal, and I'm like, oh no, what am I about to see? And then nobody's in blackface.
Right.
There's not really any, it almost comes off like they're talking about vaudeville. And it's always baffled me. Like I especially since this is sort of a very, very loose remake of another Bing Crosby movie called Holiday Inn,
Yeah.
where he does do blackface, and I've never understood this part of the movie.
Right. To be honest, I never understood that part of the movie either, but maybe it's because I'm too young and I never asked anyone to explain that part of the movie to me. And quite frankly, I don't want anyone to. Yeah, I don't know. What frustrates me is that growing up, I used to watch this with my grandpa and grandma Niska. My grandma Niska loved Bing Crosby. Whenever we were in my grandpa's truck around, Christmas, we used to listen to Bing Crosby. She loved him. And, he had a great voice. And one of the songs that we used to listen to was Bing Crosby and David Bowie. The little drummer boy. And, that's a song that, I really love because I love David Bowie. May he rest in peace. And it just makes me sad that I recently found out how terrible of a person Bing Crosby was. And so it makes me frustrated that right now I just can't watch that movie. So it's just frustrating.
Yeah, and especially frustrating, like you said, because the message is such a good one to have in the movie. Outside of this movie and like the road movies with Bob Hope, I never really sought out Bing Crosby in very many movies. I think he's a very talented comedian. His and Danny Kaye's chemistry is absolutely insane, and the numbers are really catchy. There's pretty much nothing about the movie I don't like other than the cringy minstrel show number.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm just sort of like, thank God they didn't go all the way with it.
Yeah. I still don't want that explained. So nobody in the comments, please, I'm begging you. Thanks.
But like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, please.
So what's your number 2?
I just did my number 2.
Oh.
We're on number 1 now. Dementia's getting to
me, yes. Your number 1.
We've already talked about this movie. Can you guess? It's on your list.
Oh. Is it It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes,
Oh.
it is. So, one of my favorite actors of all time is James Stewart.
Mine too.
Yeah. The reason why I love him, and one of the very first movies I ever saw him in was The Philadelphia Story. Him and Katharine Hepburn's chemistry in that movie is what made me fall in love with him. And he is just the all-round, essentially blue-collar guy. And his accent in most of his movies is just, it draws you in. But in this movie specifically, like we had discussed, he goes from being this very outgoing person to a man who is struggling and who, becomes angry and wants to try to do better but doesn't know how. And
gives up everything.
Yeah. And I feel that on a personal level. I've had, even within the last 2 years, I've struggled very hard and I've wanted to give up. And that is something that resonates with me very hard. And he's the perfect actor for this movie.
Absolutely.
And there is no actor who could have played it as good as him. And on top of it, the dancing scene, there's no one.
The movie is also funny.
Yeah, they did a perfect job of having the perfect comedic timing, the perfect romance. Like the fact that he says, "Do you want me to rope the moon for you?" He is as funny, as romantic, and as good at being angry and emotional that no actor would have been able to show that depth. Granted, there are actors of that time who probably would have been good at it, but not as good as him.
No, nobody could have done that part like him.
Yeah. And, maybe I'm biased, but he deserved to be in that role. And he will always hold a place in my heart because of how well he did that role.
My number one is Die Hard.
That is not a Christmas movie.
Suck it, internet.
That is not a Christmas movie.
That is a classic Christmas movie.
No.
And I disagree with everyone who says it's not.
That is not a Christmas movie.
Die Hard 2 is also a Christmas movie.
That is not a Christmas movie. I will respect
Will you?
your wrong decision. Why is your wrong opinion? Okay, tell me why it's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie not only because it is set at Christmas time, not only because it is set at Christmas time in LA, where I grew up, so I don't need the snow and everything in the movie for it to be a Christmas movie. It is a movie about a man who has lost everything, lost his family, and he wins it all back with Christmas spirit, let's say. So, yes.
I need vodka in this.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Moving on to TV specials.
Okay. I will respect that you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Because I am pretty sure a good half of the country says Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
It really is the great divide in America right now.
Besides, like, the Civil War.
Other than that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we could go down the list of, like, what is dividing America. But we won't, because politics suck.
Politics do suck.
All right. This probably also is not a great Christmas special. But the very first Family Guy Christmas episode, I strictly say this because Peter sucks. And this is like... Peter is chaos in a bundle. And I honestly relate to Lois because she reminds me of my very first Christmas over at my fiance's family. Just trying to understand the dynamics of his relatives. They are very lovely people. I love them to death. But once again, it's the one relative that reminds me of Uncle Eddie, but also has Peter tendencies. And this episode is dedicated to her. It is so chaotic, but at the end it has a refreshing message of, even though it's chaotic, you can still come back together as a family, love one another. And Stewie kicks it off with basically being evil, which is my youngest son, David. And, that's basically all the Christmas episodes of Family Guy.
I always particularly love the one where Stewie goes to the North Pole to look for Santa.
Oh, yeah, that one's great, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's another David. My youngest son is 5 years old now, and he is basically Stewie incarnate. Besides the fact of, he doesn't want to kill me. So that's
sure?
good.
Lois didn't think that he was trying to kill her.
No, he doesn't want to kill me. He just wants to, sneak snacks without my permission. Typical 5-year-old thing. Oh, and he also thinks he's Batman. And I'm not sure if it's Lego Batman, Christian Bale Batman, or, why am I blanking on his name? The guy who played Beetlejuice, what's his name?
Michael Keaton.
Thank you. The best Batman.
Yeah. Batman Returns is also a great Christmas movie. My number 5 would be what I believe is the very first episode of Tales from the Crypt, where a lunatic escapes from a mental hospital, steals a Santa costume, breaks into somebody's house, and hacks them up with an axe.
Why? Why? Okay, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So far on most of your lists, they are so dark. Okay, I'm supposed to be the Scrooge, but yours are slash murderer. And originally you had told me that you were the happy-go-lucky and simple man. No, you are
The woman who gets hacked up was awful and got her comeuppance, as happens in Tales from the Crypt episodes. So it had a happy ending.
Are you a sociopath?
No.
I don't like the pause.
What's your number 4?
The MASH Christmas episode where I'm blanking because I'm a little scared right now what your number 4 is. Okay, the MASH Christmas episode where Hawkeye is gifting to why am I blanking? And I know in the short episodes you're gonna be editing it and saying, "Come on!"
Now I am.
All right. Essentially, it's the first Christmas episode that they do, and I believe they have some sort of celebration, with everyone, and then they have to they always have some sort of emergency, and they work long hours, but then towards the end, Radar gives Hawkeye a present. And I'm probably getting the season wrong, but I remember Hawkeye being exhausted and just feeling so thankful. And then they end up getting really drunk in that episode. But it reminds you of the fact that, they were doing everything they could for their, fellow soldiers. And I just love the humor in it. And on top of it, too, they gave Frank a really hard time. And they were so sick of his shit. And then there comes little Radar in to, essentially remind Hawkeye that he's doing the best that he can. So, I'm probably getting the season wrong. But, I'm still reeling on the fact that I'm sitting next to a sociopath.
My number 4 is the South Park Christmas episode where they meet Charles Manson.
Are you sure you like Christmas?
At the end of the episode, Charles Manson learns to appreciate the holiday season. So, yes, it had a very wonderful Christmas message to it.
Did they take him to jail?
They did. He escaped from jail, but he went back to jail willingly because he knew he was a bad person who did bad things and should be punished for it. But he learned to appreciate the holiday season, and he replaced the swastika on his forehead with a happy smile face.
I recently watched this ghost hunting episode. So I watched Sam and Kobe, What's Up Guys, on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And they went to a prison asylum type place where Charles Manson's mother was incarcerated and where he was born. Mm. And I thought that was so interesting because I never knew that he was born in a prison.
I didn't either until right now.
Yeah. And I didn't know that his mom was a criminal either. So
all I know about Charles Manson is from the South Park Christmas episode, so I assume he's a lovely man.
You didn't know that he murdered people?
Wait, he murdered people?
Yeah! Are you being a butthead right now?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
What's next on your list?
Family Matters episode where Urkel's invited to spend Christmas with will be stopped and saved. No, go away. Alright. Sorry about that. So it's the Family Matters episode where Urkel is invited to spend Christmas with the Winslow family. And this is about the time when Urkel is very, essentially, he's the show at this point.
Where it got to the point where it was a bit obnoxious that he just took over what was originally
the Winslow family
show?
Yeah, I mean, so personally, I do like Urkel. He's yes, he is obnoxious, but he is a good character because of how well he treats Laura. Mm-hmm. I feel like he should be recognized of how he is a gentleman to Laura.
He is, yes.
But she is such a bitch to him. But this Christmas episode, it's so heartfelt because I feel like his parents treat him so poorly. And, I thought it was great that they included him in that episode. And towards the end of the episode, they end up singing Christmas carols. And I thought that was very sweet. And that's why I like it, because they included him in it because he had nowhere else to go. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was, special. And it's one of the first shows that you actually really see, a black family that really took off.
Yeah, which is why I always thought it was a shame that it did turn into the Urkel show. But, yeah, I think my number 3 is one that you will be able to get on board with. Mm-hmm. Season 1 of the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
The Christmas episode.
Yeah.
Where, what's his name? The old man. Ben. The old Scrooge in the town.
Yep.
Who
tries to control everything and gets really bent out of shape when things don't go his way.
Mm-hmm. And who is just a hateful, awful character in the probably the most hateful and awful in Mayberry. And that is saying something.
Yeah.
And he does everything he can to disrupt the Christmas that Andy and Barney and their friends are having in the jail, really because he's jealous and wants to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really have a family, and, he's just a lonely old man, but doesn't know how to vocalize it
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Mm-hmm. And there's a very, I think, touching moment where they're singing Christmas carols in the jail, and he's outside in the cold looking in through the bars and singing the song too.
He looks so sad too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just wants to be involved. And then he goes and tries to steal a bench, and Andy's just like, what are you doing?
He's doing everything he can to be arrested so that he could just be in the jail with them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to just ask.
Yeah, and then Andy figures it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes Andy such a likable character, because he's like, okay, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a sweet thing. And, that's the other thing too I love about, Aunt B is because she's like, just come have food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my, love languages too, being like, eat.
Mm-hmm.
Because she will come into the jail and feed everyone.
Yeah.
Even if it's just Otis coming there for one night.
Yeah. She makes everybody lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really, as opposed to the previous ones on my list, it's a
Humble.
it's a really sweet episode that doesn't get sappy.
Right. It's not sappy, it's humble and just very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not, killing or, decapitating people or...
I didn't say it was perfect.
Yeah, Mr. Sentimental. All right, so my number 2 is the I Love Lucy episode, where they are trying to explain to their son how Santa Claus comes into their house.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I love this episode is because Ricky is originally explaining the why to their son.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, hey, I explained the why, you explain the how. And Lucy, the whole entire time that Ricky is explaining the why, he turns to Lucy and just goes, I explained the why, you explain the how. But Lucy is just giving him shit the whole entire time. And I love it because she is just so sarcastic, and their son is just being so innocent and being like, well, how does he get into the house without a chimney? And that is such a stereotypical kid thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just so great because you can just picture, as a parent, trying to explain this to an innocent kid. It is great.
And see, I'm sure I've seen it 17 times, and I probably not since I was a kid, so I don't have it fresh in my memory. I kind of have it somewhere in the back. But were they still in the apartment, or were they in the house?
They were in an apartment.
Okay. Yeah, and the dynamic between Ricky and Lucy when they became parents wasn't always... they didn't play it up as much as they could have. Ricky always came off as he was just Lucy did all the work, and Ricky would swoop it every now and then, jostle the kid's hair, and that was it. So
he wasn't the greatest dad. Lucy was essentially both parents. And so when she would make him be the dad, it was great because I found it hilarious, because it was yeah, fucking do it. Just get him. And it was even better when their son would, essentially ask him questions, and he would just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you have the background of Lucy just being like... So that's why I love that episode. And then you have, Ethel come in with the tree, and she's struggling to carry it. It's great. It's just all around a very funny episode because it's falling apart as you're watching it.
As most I Love Lucy episodes, the better ones do.
Yep.
My number 2 would be the very first ever episode of The Simpsons, where Homer has to take a job as a mall Santa in order to pay for Christmas gifts for the kids. And we touched upon this in the last episode. It was the first time I ever heard a cartoon character swear, which was thrilling to me. But I liked the older episodes of The Simpsons. It eventually devolved into, I think, funnily enough, as much as people say that Family Matters ripped off The Simpsons, I think that eventually The Simpsons started ripping off Family Guy. And trying to be that. And those early, I'd say the first, especially 10 seasons of The Simpsons, are just such a pure thing that showed why they were because everybody was ripping them off. Everybody was doing an animated adult comedy, and nobody could get it right. And the Christmas episode is it's just great writing. It's manages to actually become sort of a bit of a timeless Christmas story, while at the same time being funny and sarcastic and all of the things you would expect from an episode of The Simpsons.
Right. Well, that that makes sense. And it's funny that that's the first episode that they ever did, and that gripped so many people. And I'm sure that the fact that they swore in the episode, and that's the first thing that people were like, oh my god, they swore.
It was amazing.
But nowadays they're trying to stop Homer from choking Bart now. I read that recently, and I think that's a little stupid because it's like, stop trying to censor these shows. Like, I get that, I get where people are concerned, but these shows are the way they are for a reason. I'm not saying that they're necessarily, I would let my kids watch this show. We touched base on this in the last podcast. However, these shows have been like this for so long. If you want a show that is, more, concerned about how it's presented, maybe look for a show that's like Blippi or, for younger kids.
Well, and this is the reason why a show shouldn't go on for 35 years.
Or that.
The way that it was, no matter how, because 35 years ago, you would have said that The Simpsons was as progressive as you could get. And now everybody is like, God, those early episodes are just so cringy and painful to watch and everything. And it's like, this is why. Like, maybe just
let it be in its era.
Or the thing that I have always thought would have been amazing if they did it, let them age. Because Bart was 10, I was 10 when that show started.
That's the thing too, is that it's a product of its era. And people just don't get that at all.
Well, the characters can't grow and change if they're not allowed to grow and change. And so Homer choking Bart, Apu, like all of the things that people look back on now and they're like, oh, that's awful. It's what was in the show's DNA. And as you take those elements out, it stops being The Simpsons. So, but the Christmas episode is one that I still will watch.
Right. I just think people need to get over it.
No, I'd agree.
Just a personal opinion.
And also maybe just stop making The Simpsons.
Yeah, just stop. Please. Yeah, so my number one, once again, it's in your list. It's an Andy Griffith show with Ben. It's just it's a good episode, and it's very humble. And so all of the Christmas episodes that they did were good from season 1 to 5. Just plain simple.
I watched season 6 through 8 or 9, whatever the last one was, because I bought the box set and I watched all the episodes all the way through. I couldn't tell you one fucking thing that happens after Barney leaves.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is that first Christmas episode was so good that I would be fine not watching any of the other Christmas episodes, because it's pure, and they made Ben's character relatable to the Scrooge character, and to the characters that are crappy and want to be just included, just want to be loved. And I still think it's hilarious that he tried to steal a bench, because that's something I would do. Like, I just want to be loved, but I'm gonna steal a bench so then you notice me. Like, it's petty stuff like that.
So you're saying you've got a little Ben in your heart.
A little bit. But, I feel most women do when we want to be, paid attention to. Sorry, you do.
And my number 1, speaking of dark and twisted.
Oh, no.
Is Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown.
You really had me scared.
I mean, Charlie Brown looks like he does want to die through most of the show.
Yeah, he does.
And most of the characters look like they want him to die through most of the show.
I mean, except Snoopy.
Yeah, Snoopy puts up with him.
I mean, he has to. He gets fed.
Yeah. But I've been watching this since I was a kid. It came on sometime in the 60s when my dad would have been around like 10, 11, 12 years old. And it's an example, I mean, the whole episode is great, but there's one moment in particular that I think is an example of how, if you want to bring the religious element into Christmas, how to do it, which is nobody knows what the meaning of Christmas is. And so Linus just stops the show dead to tell the Christmas story. And I am not a religious person. I haven't been since I was a kid, but I still do like the stories. And so the fact that they actually bring that element into it and tell you, and to do the thing that, like, look, I'm sorry if this is going to upset some people. Christmas is a religious holiday. You can enjoy it in a secular way, but it is a religious holiday. It literally is in the name. And
technically, Christmas started out as a pagan holiday. Sorry, Christians, we stole it.
But the fact that the show actually goes and acknowledges that is, I think, really sweet. The way that it's done. It's not done in a way that rubs your face in it or anything. It's done in a way where Linus is more talking about the message of the Christmas story than he is about the religious aspects of it.
And I think Linus has always been very good at that. He is a very well-rounded character compared to most of the characters.
Lucy is awful, as always. And, but yeah, that's one that I will watch every year.
I think that's a good one. I like that one compared to the first ones on your list. No offense.
Charlie Brown grew up and killed all of them, right? They drove him to it.
Where's the evidence of this? And on that note, I think we're gonna wrap up with that, guys. Thanks for watching our podcast, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm. No bah humbug?
Bah hum bug. And please don't kill anyone. Don't be a sociopath. Please don't murder anyone like he will probably do. Please.
Bye.